The Donald Trump administration has asked US embassies around the world to stop scheduling appointments for student visas as it expands scrutiny of applicants' social media posts. The pause on interviews will likely slow down student visa processing and could impact American universities that are heavily reliant on international students for revenue.
Okay, US has paused visa applications for the moment. The operative word is paused, and they haven't said stopped. Paused, they're recalibrating what the process should be. How should they be judging students, and when and who should be granted visas? While they haven't given a timeline as to when they will restart this, it is assumed it wouldn't take too long, given the importance international students play a role in their own domestic economy. Having said that, we need to be prepared for the worst. We need to be sure that in case this takes longer than we assume, students have a plan B in place as well. Number intake, obviously, they're pretty much further down the road, and the options are slightly more limited to somebody who's going to be planning for 18 months ahead from now. For those who are already in this process, they need to start evaluating the process, the universities they're getting admitted to, and would they want to continue, wait for it in case it doesn't work this year? Would they like to postpone it next year? Or would they be able to find an equally good university in another part of the world and see would they want to take that as a plan B? Where they feel they would rather wait, I think it might make sense to see how the next 2 to 3 weeks go. If they feel there's no improvement happening, they might be better off writing to universities requesting a deferral for 2026. For those who are looking at 2026, who are anyway looking at admission for 2026, I think there will be a little bit more clarity, but given there's a lot of time. My suggestion is do not stop your applications. So work with those. As you go further into it, you'll get more clarity around the rules. At the same time, it's important that you know that there is an uncertainty around it. Plan for alternative options. See if another country or a destination works for you. And if so, start applying for those institutions as well. Applying at the last minute in case rules don't work out is not a great idea because it's quite possible the scholarships might be over, even the seats may not be available. So 26, I would say, yes, start working for US, but have a plan B in place. 25, certainly start thinking about it, including deferrals, but don't take a rash decision over the next 2 3 weeks. Wait for some more clarity to come in. Yes, students who have already paid their fees and if this visa appointments do not open up, again, the choices for them are very limited. Either they look up at deferring it for 2026, which most universities will be happy to transfer. They understand it's not that the students have dropped off, it's just that they weren't allowed to come in. So they're happy to transfer it. And I'm sure they will also be given an opportunity to take a claim or refund. Most universities are pretty open and transparent about these things. So they would be allowed to apply for a refund. Students need to be patient because they would not be the only ones seeking a refund. There'll be a considerable number of doing it. The process could take long, but generally speaking, most of the US universities, we do not expect issues around getting money back from them.
There's also concern that expansive vetting of social media posts could discourage international students from coming to the US. What exactly does this mean for students?
Okay, social media vetting is actually not a new concept. It's always been happening. Maybe it has now gained more limelight around it. It was always used by the visa office to identify non-genuine applicants because there's a tendency. There are students, or I would say, people who try to masquerade as students, and the documents are not genuine. They try and present a profile which is not true. So it's a social media way is to check if the student is who he or she is claiming to be. So that was the primary thing. Obviously now they're looking at a far more greater role in it. So rather than just see if the student is genuine or matches the profile being presented, the visa application, they're also trying to see is there a way who could turn out to be a threat to the country, people who could have a violent stretch, or do you think there's a viewpoint which suddenly could flare up into something more big issues around it? And they've been pretty clear about the fact is that they are wanting people who are looking at studying first and studying as their primary purpose only. While nothing has been mentioned about how long they will deep into it because it's still being finalized, but expect them to go deep into your profile. There is, as I say, in a social media, there's nothing which is not current. Profile, posts as old as 5 or 7 years could be dug up as well. And so those things would be looked into it. If you feel there's a post which was made in haste, where you were probably not in the best state, where it was, maybe it's best to delete those posts as well, where you think those were not you anyways. We always have those rash moments occasionally where we probably end up posting something which doesn't represent us. We forget about it, but social media doesn't forget it. So sometimes it's best to kind of clean that out. See, US, the classes start in August. So the time window we have is very little, 2 months. The capacity US has built up in visa applications in India is considerable. Over the last 2-3 years, they've seen the demand for it, and we've seen a big center open up in Hyderabad, which is one of the biggest in the world for them. And in the past, when they have tried to clear visas, they've opened up Saturdays and Sundays appointments as well, and allowed Indians to even apply from other countries as well. So the question then comes in is, when do we get a clarity around it, and how open is it? Based on this, you could expect many of them could get clear, but I think it's early days. We've just heard about being paused, and I said I want to repeat, it's paused, not stopped. So if the recalibration happens quickly, which we hope it will, we can expect students to get quicker visas. But as I said, be prepared for the worst, have a plan B in mind, know what you intend to do in case things are not working out. If you're going to be resigning from your jobs, maybe you might want to hold on to it. You're straight out of college, probably it may not be a bad idea to start looking at alternate destinations or applying for opportunities elsewhere as well. But prepare for both sides of it. So US hasn't really changed many rules around. It has only started to get more, it has started to enforce them more strictly around what was always there. The only changes we're now seeing is, they're saying looking at reassess or how they're going to assess students for visa applications. That's the only part they've come back and say going to change. Otherwise, they're sticking to the idea that, if you're on a student visa, you cannot work outside the requisite numbers. If you are on an OPT, they says you cannot have more than 90 days of unemployed work, unemployed days as well. So those are things which were always there, weren't enforced. Now they've started to enforce the same rules. So rules haven't changed. People need to be aware of the rules, need to take them very seriously, and know what needs to be entered where. If you need to update your system somewhere, do that. If somebody needs to be informed about something, take care of it. Be careful about it. You can't hide behind the fact that I didn't know that rule existed. If you're going to the country, you are going with a very specific set. It's important you take an effort to understand what the rules are. Yes, that's a very real risk, because you're given scholarships. Generally, scholarships lapse after the year. While you can roll over offers, a lot of universities won't necessarily allow you to roll scholarships. Having said that, this is not a normal year. If today the applications get paused, then the universities might also have budgets left over to be used up next year. So there's a possibility that stays on. But again, I said, if this is just a temporary pause, it's a recalibration, and we start seeing applications open up again in a week's time, there's a possibility that may not change. And we should not forget the fact that they've not cancelled any existing appointments. So any student already had an appointment can still go ahead, would still be assessed the way it is, and can still get there as well. So there would be an opportunity that the students will continue to get their scholarships, but there exists a small chance that they might lapse the scholarship. Again, we'll have to play it as things unfold. See, I'll tell you what's happening is that since the pandemic, built up a lot of pent-up demand, because people who weren't able to go between 2020 to 2022. So there's a larger chunk of people which came along. It also created opportunities for people who felt, I might want to move countries where they may not be looking at study as the main reason as well. What it did do in all of these countries, not just UK or Canada, in all of these countries, was we saw a surge in students who were not studying per se, and this is where it prompted the governments to start saying is, how do we ensure our systems are not misused? So you asked me about UK. So UK just recently come up with their white paper. It came out about a week ago. If you look at it, it starts with the idea, and it starts with a statement says how much the international students contribute to the UK economy and how beneficial they are for them, Yet it talks about how they've been abused. And as an example was, there are about 10,000 odd students who started off as students, and then they applied for asylum after that. And that is perplexing. So they're trying to avoid misuse. They're still welcoming international students. They still want them in. They've been very expressive about it. They were trying to ensure the best and the brightest come in. And that's recalibration is what is currently happening. And we see that in other places as well. See, Canada has definitely seen a big dip in numbers. This has been to do with two parts of it. One is, of course, the policy has shaped up. The government has become a little bit more, not little, a lot more stricter. They changed rules, they changed retrospectively, students being caught off guard. So that's what's pushing some students away from it, is because the uncertainty around how rules can be changed at a drop of a hat. Second thing which is also going against Canada is because they saw a big surge in 22 to 24, the number of students who were going over there. A lot of students felt they were not properly catered to. They probably took in more students than they had infrastructure for, more students than they had housing for. And that's where students start to get a subpar experience. So there's also a pushback from those students to say, look, we cannot have that kind of, if we are coming in for good quality education, we're coming in, we're spending money over there, we need a quality education. So there's been a pushback over there as well. And I think the government, that side, also realizes it and says there will be recalibration on that angle. There was an election year for them this year. Obviously, when you have an election, you kind of, a lot of things are taken, knee-jerk reactions happen. What needs probably a surgeon's knife, we end up using a sledgehammer. And probably that's what probably happened in Canada. As now the elections are behind us, you can expect the government to start recalibrating again, because I don't think they intend to be hostile to international students. They will be welcoming them again. Just that they'll be a little bit more careful to ensure that the best and the brightest come in. They want to ensure the students don't get the same experience where they say overcommitted and under-delivered. So that recalibration can be expected fairly soon. There has been a debate in UK around the post-study work visa as well. It's actually the graduate immigration route. That's the exact term they use. As that suggests, it's a route which is a pathway which is provided to students to move into full-time work. In itself, it's not a category where they want people to stay. It's an idea is to help students to move into a skilled visa category, which is the Tier 2 visa. So we're seeing an interest in alternative destinations go up. We've seen mainland Europe go up. France, Germany being the primary ones over there, the numbers have definitely gone up. Germany has gone from 4,000 to 40,000 students in the last 5-7 years. That shows you the interest. The other destination we're seeing a big jump is Ireland, which was about 1,000 students about 10 years ago. Today we're close to 10,000 students right now. That's again gone a 10x thing. We're seeing similar interest towards Dubai happening right now. We're seeing a big jump come in. We saw, I think, a 40% increase in applications this year. That again is a big jump for that matter. So we're seeing an interest in these alternative destinations going in. Before coming into how are they friendly or not, I would again want to go back to the idea is you need to identify, is that destination right for you? If you are, let's say, if I'm looking at studying automobiles, right, I need to see, is that country has a good industry around it? So if I pick Dubai for automobile, I'm probably not doing myself a favor because there is no industry over there. There are resellers, but there's no plants. Vis-a-vis, if I were to look at this for UK or Germany, there are plants over there. There's this industry around it. There's research and development which is happening. There are opportunities galore over there. Same thing if I were to say, let's say artificial intelligence. So look at the Silicon Valley of Europe as Ireland, and that's where we notice the employment opportunities exist. If I end up picking a country which doesn't have that computer science sector, I will probably struggle. So what really happens is that people pick the destination first and then start to think, then they apply for the course they want to go. I would say is think of what you want to do. What is your career path? Which is the destination that gets you there? So let's say we talk about Germany. So, we've seen an increase over there. There's a lot of interest over it. The interesting thing about Germany is most of the education is free. So it's not that the government is trying to say, give us money, right? They're giving you education for nothing, except of course, they're spending for your living expenses. And clearly, if you look at it, they need international students to fill up a lot of positions. But they cannot fill up positions which don't exist, right? If the industry which exists, those are the positions they will be able to fill up. What sometimes we do is, we're planning for Germany, but thinking about India. The first thing we think about is India, these are the jobs which are in demand, right? And when you think about Germany, the course we're picking up is what is the demand in India, not what is demanded in Germany. And that is sometimes the biggest mistake people do. They think about, I'll give you an example. An MBA. The thought in India is we should do an MBA immediately after your course. Okay. When you look at the West, they don't do it before 29, 30. If that MBA could change your career overnight, in the West, wouldn't the Western students also be doing it 23, 24? Why do wait till 29? So if you think from an India point of view that I need an MBA at 23, You land up in the West and try and do it at 23. Will that give you an edge? No, you are not qualified for the jobs you're looking for. So it's sometimes important to identify what will work over there. And are you choosing the right destination for it? That is with the big difference between different countries. And I said, I believe there's a path for everybody. It's important is what works for your friend will not work for you. The earlier you realize it, the better it is, because a lot of students take decisions because their friends, family said, oh, Canada is great for immigration. It might be great for immigration, but it may not be the course for you. They come and say, oh, Ireland is very good, and easy to find jobs around. Yes, plenty of jobs around over there, but is it for the area you're seeking? So identifying that destination is critical. See, I said number one, as I talked about, identify is that country has the sector which you're interested to study about. Two, look at what is the investment the government is putting into that sector. Then look at, is the education system investing in those areas? Let's say if we're talking about renewable energy, we need to understand is that country committed to renewable energy? Is the government putting in money? Is the industry following up? Is there a linkages with the universities over there? If it is, your answer is there, yes, this works for me. So first is, as I said, we go back to the industry. Second then comes in is personality. Everybody has a different kind of personality. We need to see, do we vibe with that place? We may not necessarily vibe with everywhere, and we also need to understand is that the country exists outside the capitals. So for a lot of people, when you talk about UK, it's London, but London doesn't represent UK. There are different areas. Each area has a different strength of it. Again, not just for the industry, but in terms of how it is brought in. Because it's assumed the bigger the city, safer it is. But it works the other way around as well. Sometimes the smaller cities tend to be safer as well. People say, let's go to London because they're going to be easier part-time jobs. Okay. But, you will end up, earning about 3 to 4 lakh rupees on part-time jobs, but you end up spending 6 to 7 lakhs extra on your living expenses. So it may not be wise to spend because you might be earning, but you're still ending up spending more. As a student, I would say probably a smaller city works because you save that money. You may not do that part-time work, but the time you saved, that's the time you use towards working towards your final job. So identifying where you need to be, what city vibes with you. The third aspect comes in is an introvert, extrovert again. It is assumed an introvert, a bigger city, extrovert, smaller city will be fine. It's actually the other way around. Because, in a bigger city, everybody is running around in their own world. So, everywhere you go, you need to make your own circle. You need to make, get people involved with it. So, you're going to college, you need somebody, you suddenly, you go back to accommodation, which is 10 kilometers away. You need to find another circle over there. You go to your gym, you find another circle over there. You're forced to set things up everywhere and needs somebody to be very extrovert to be able to build those islands for themselves everywhere. The moment you go to a smaller city or you go into more compact campuses, you're forced to interact with people. You will have the same people around. So sometimes they lead to more meaningful conversations. It sometimes leads to better relationships, so, in terms of a network which you build for life, because they're stronger. You connected with them almost daily. You know them better than anybody else. So again, those are the things which we tell people is to see who are you. Then comes in, you asked me third. Of course, we're talking about then the university, Is the university strength around it? I normally say is a rule of thumb. Look at what are the universities researching on. These universities always would have areas they're stronger in, So when you go with a pure rank, the thing about rank is it changes every year, So if I go with pure rank, I'm probably picking this is higher. By the time I graduate, it changes altogether, Is that a great idea then? No. I would say is let's form buckets, 0 to 5, 5 to 15, 15 to 25. And within those buckets, try and identify what is that maximizes it today, because what is 25th today could be 15th, and what is 15 could be 25. But as long as I'm sure about the bucket, I will ensure I take better decisions, because then I choose what works for me as an institution. It works for me in terms of what it offers me. It works for me is how do I build myself? Is it a place can I build a network for myself? Is it where I explore myself? Do I come out on it? And then I look at what do I do outside my studies? Because, education is just not what you're in class. It's actually what happens outside the class, the people you interact with, the things you do. So are those activities, the clubs, the societies, do they align with what you're seeking, So once they start aligning, you realize the whole experience becomes very enriching, and you realize each of them works as a step towards what you're trying to achieve. When you don't plan through these, then there is a high chance the students will falter. And because the outcome they're aiming for, while it might be very easy to say employment, you know, but that is too simplistic a view. For me, it is a career, you know. Employment is stage one. Career is the entire graph. Okay. What would I want to maximize? Not the intercept, but my slope, you know. So that's what I would say is when you choose your education, your destination, your course, your university, try and maximize your slope, not your intercept.